Do you remember the Audemars Piguet Remaster 1 from 2020? Today we're looking at the second remaster as AP recreated another highlight from their impressive history. More often than not, watches were designed rather symmetrical and round. There's probably several reasons why watches are predominantly shaped round. First of all, looking at the very origin, even old sundials, church tower clocks from the Middle Ages, wall clocks, and later on pocket watches are all shaped round and the hands move around in a circular dial. The wrist-worn watch originates from the pocket watch. These were worn rather invisible in a pocket, so not on the wrist where the watch was visible, so the style element, especially for men's pocket watches, was less dominant than when watches started being worn visibly on the wrist. Another good reason could be that especially in the early days of the wrist-worn watch, watches were often created as a precision tool. A symmetrical design made it easier to read the time quickly, accurately and intuitively. It had to be functional and its shape or style was most likely of lesser importance. However, wristwatches are not exclusively designed as a tool, and especially in the post-World War II period, going into the 50s, 60s and 70s, some brands got really creative. One of these brands is of course Audemars Piguet. AP has distinguished itself with the unique ability to disrupt the norm or to break the rules. The creations of AP adopt a wide variety of forms. Of course, there's the iconic royal oak, but there are many more forms and shapes. From the second chapter of the remaster collection, the brand reimagines a model of Brutalist inspiration, a yellow gold model from 1961, reference 5159BA, a model of which only 7 have been made. Like with Remaster 1, again the idea is not to present a one-on-one copy of a historical model, but to reimagine it with a modern eye and technology, just like remastering of music recordings. Hi Raphael, thanks for taking the time to explain us shaped watches. And especially with the Remaster 2 that we're going to look at today, that's very asymmetrical, but the origin started with more shaped watches than the simple round watches. Can you explain us where these shapes, these creative shapes come from?
So the origins of the shape watches, we have to go a bit back, because if we look at the history, round was the traditional shape of watch.
Very much.
Because even the sundial is a round shape. And the hands are a reproduction of the shade that is given by the stick. But then it was really, I would say, in the beginning of the 20th century, with the appearance of wristwatches, that the creativity go far stronger and that we could get out of the circle. Because the moment that you attach a bracelet on a shape, you can have a shape that can be very different. Also, then it made it was far more linked with the styles and fashions of the time. If we are thinking of Art Deco, for example, with this typical purity in the shapes that we wanted to have, that was also reproduced and that we can find in the watches before the Second World War. But after that, of course, if we look at what happened after the Second World War, we wanted to get rid a bit of what was before. So we wanted a new, something refreshing way. So we tried to rework on the shapes of the watches. So we worked with, I would take just an example here of a round watch. So this is a pure round watch. We don't even have the lugs on it, so to keep the purity of the round. But we also have squares that combine with them, triangle, or whatever. And after years of exploring this different geometry, what is left? What is the next phase? Then you begin to challenge the symmetry of the watches. The symmetry, that is the main point that you usually have in a watch. That is what makes the watch stand out and be something equilibrated. But when we challenge that, what do we have? We have, for example, the reference 5159, that is an extraordinary asymmetrical watch. Not so far from a square.
Funny enough, indeed.
But the moment that you move the lugs on the side and the dial on the other side, That's the moment that you expand the proportions and that you make an imbalance, I would say,
exactly.
on the design, but that makes the whole point of the watch. What is the interest of the watch? It's that it stands out. And look at the shape of it. Brutal shapes, very sharp angles.
Exactly, yeah.
So really, like we could find in the architecture, brutalist movements, where we wanted to explore the symmetry, challenge it, with raw materials also appearing. Here the material is not raw because it's gold, but it's polished and satin brushed to add the traditional finishing. But what is interesting is that we have a glass that is also faceted, and that is because the glass is also a part of the watch that we work and we give the shape. It's not only something that we want to protect, the dial, but it is something that we use to play with.
And it really becomes part of the entire design.
Yes, exactly. From all these watches made after the Second World War, it is a time at Audemars Piguet where the company was still very small. Mm-hmm. But after years of struggling, when the situation and the economic general situation got better, they needed to change the way to produce the watches. So they introduced the notion of models. So they introduced references. So before the 1950s, every watch was unique. After that, at AP, we began to have a similar watch. So that is a model, 51, 59, but we only produced 7 of them. So it's not that many. So still a very small production.
As a proper timekeeper, modern watches are more reliable. But in terms of style, I have to say it was pretty groundbreaking what they were doing back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it was really an exploration that was with a lot of creativity, because in a few years, Audemars Piguet released around 30 different asymmetrical references, just to have an idea.
So it's really a different era, different style, but also for Audemars Piguet, a period where they started working differently with the introduction of references and more collections, etc.
Yeah.
Over time.
But that still was a bit, that still was prolonging the way of collaboration that we had with the different partners, and that we still have today. Yeah. Should it be the case makers, dial makers, or movements.
The most striking evolution with the Master02 in comparison to the old model from 1961 is the adaptation of the case design and dimensions. If the overall look can immediately be recognized, it has been remastered with a modern eye and using modern technology. The proportions have been enlarged from 27.5mm to 41mm, and the asymmetrical design stands out by straight lines drawing in unconventional geometry. The faceted sapphire glass echoes the sharp angles of the case and offers captivating blaze of light. The material is new, it's sand gold, it's a novel exclusive AP 18-karat gold alloy, and it looks really beautiful. Depending on how the light falls on it, it's going from rose to even grey gold. The finishes of the case have been reimagined with a complete satin finished case, except for the polished mirror-like dial contours.
The difficulty was to get the watch water resistant despite its asymmetrical shape. In particular, we have needed 2 years of research and development from the design to the production of its crystal shape. The complexity is to craft the glass with extreme precision because it's not glued, as we have a gasket instead. We also need perfect transparency, which was really challenging given its shape, in particular for the concave side. The finishing of the case is really difficult to achieve too, as we need to ensure the continuity of lines from the case to the glass.
The dial is beautiful with a captivating play of lights. It's the result of an elaborate construction, and that's really not easy to do. The modernist mosaic consists of a base plate machined to create 12 compartments within which the midnight blue inserts are embedded. Their deep blue color is achieved via a PVD process, while different linear brushed finish creates a striking reflection. Lastly, the applied AP signature appears in relief. It is remarkably precise and achieved via a galvanic growth. Unlike the original, the Master02 is equipped with a sapphire caseback that allows to discover the movement and it's not just a movement, it's a great movement with a great pedigree. It's the automatic caliber 7129. It's derived from the movement of the iconic Royal Oak Jumbo. However, now the date function has been removed, making the movement even slimmer, going from 3.2mm to just 2.8mm. As you would expect from AP, it is superbly finished and it has been thought in coherence with the case. The Master02 comes on a blue calfskin strap and it's released in a limited edition of just 250 pieces.